No one will push you forever. You have to push yourself. In the beginning, maybe your parents, teachers, or even your friends remind you to work hard, to wake up early, to take action. But how long will they do it? A day, a month, a year? Eventually they will stop. Not because they don't care, but because they know the truth. No one can build your life for you. If you wait for someone to wake you up, to push you, to keep you accountable, then you are already losing. Because the ones who win are the ones who don't need to be reminded. They wake up every morning knowing that no one is going to come and save them. No one is going to fight their battles. No one is going to drag them to success. Think about this. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start tomorrow? How many times have you waited for the perfect moment to take action? And what happened? Nothing, because you were waiting for motivation. But let me tell you something. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Some days you feel inspired, other days you don't. Discipline is always there. And that's the difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck in the same place. The truth is, success is not about how talented you are. It's not about how lucky you are. It's about how disciplined you are. You see, lazy people dream, but disciplined people act lazy. People make excuses, but disciplined people find a way. Lazy people blame circumstances, but disciplined people create opportunities. And the hardest part, the beginning, because in the beginning you will feel uncomfortable. Waking up early will feel painful. Working when no one is watching will feel pointless. Every morning, two choices. Continue to sleep with your You've been through storms nobody saw. You've cried in silence when the world kept laughing. You smiled in front of the world, but inside you were breaking it to pieces. Let me tell you something right now. That pain, it ends here. That cycle, it breaks today. That version of you who kept getting hurt, ignored, abandoned, used, walked on, that version is gone. Today, a new you is rising. You've spent too long letting people have access to your peace. Too long allowing people to hurt you just because you love them. Too long blaming yourself for the way they treated you. But let me ask you something real. When did you decide that your worth would be measured by the ones who couldn't see it? When did you start believing that broken people had the right to break you too? Listen to me. Nobody and nothing will ever hurt you again. Because starting now, you're no longer giving them the power to do so. You see, healing doesn't mean the pain never happened. It means the pain no longer controls your decisions. It means the past doesn't get to write your future. It means you can stand tall with your scars and say, this happened, but it didn't end me. You didn't survive everything you've been through to stay in chains. You didn't cry all those nights just to let another careless soul tear you down again. You've earned your freedom. And that freedom begins with this truth. Not everyone deserves access to you. You've been giving your peace away for far too long. Not because you were weak, but because you were loyal. Because you loved with your whole heart. Because you believed in people even when they gave you every reason not to. You tolerated the disrespect. You made excuses for their behavior. You convinced yourself maybe they're just going through something, or maybe I'm too sensitive. But deep down you felt that you knew they were draining your spirit. You knew they were disturbing your peace, and still you stayed. Still you tried to fix it. Still you put them before you. That ends now. You're no longer a sacrifice for people who wouldn't even lift a hand to help you. You're no longer going to bleed emotionally for those who can't say, I'm sorry. That season of constantly being on edge, feeling small, walking on eggshells, begging for basic respect, that season is over. When you give people your peace, you give them your power. And when they hold your power, they can control you without even trying. That's why you're taking it back. That's why you're cutting off the access. That's why you're protecting your soul like your life depends on it, because it does. You are not obligated to entertain chaos just because it's familiar. You're not here to fix grown people who refuse to fix themselves. You are not required to carry burdens that were never meant to be yours. What they did to you wasn't your fault, but what you allow from this point on is your responsibility. Every time you say yes to things that disturb your peace, you're saying no to your own growth. Every time you allow toxic energy into your space, you're delaying your healing. So now you choose peace. You choose silence over arguments. You choose solitude over fake company. You choose truth over manipulation. Let them call you selfish, cold, distant. Let them talk. Because they don't know what it cost you to get here. They don't know how many nights you cried. They don't know how you had to rebuild yourself piece by piece just to keep breathing. Your peace is not up for negotiation anymore. Your healing isn't on the table for compromise. The moment you stop trying to be everything for everyone, that's the moment you start becoming everything for yourself. And that version of you, that version is unstoppable. It used to be easy to let people in. You'd open your heart like a door without a lock. You'd welcome everyone, friends, lovers, even strangers. With the best parts of you, you'd give them comfort, support, attention, care. But now you see, some people only came to take. Some came just to feed off your light while offering nothing in return. They didn't care how drained you felt, as long as they felt better. And you kept giving, you kept loving them harder, thinking maybe that would change things. But it didn't. It just left you empty. It left you lost in a crowd of people who only showed up when they needed something. So now you're learning the art of silence, the power of walking away without announcing it, the strength in choosing your peace over fake love, over shallow friendships, over one-sided loyalty. You're not angry, you're just finally awake. You're not cold, you're finally aware. Your eyes are open now. And once you see what someone really brings into your life, chaos or calm, you can no longer pretend it doesn't matter. It matters. And from now on, you matter more. The old you would have apologized for setting boundaries. The old you would have second-guessed your feelings. The old you would have given second, third, fourth chances to people who never deserved the first, but not anymore. Not now. Now you understand that boundaries aren't walls, bridges to your peace. They're reminders that you don't have to be available for everyone every time. You're not a lifeline. You're not a fixer. You're not responsible for how others react to your growth. Let them call you different. Let them say you've changed. That's exactly the point. Growth is painful, but staying the same is lethal. You're dying in spaces where you couldn't speak your truth. You were suffocating in environments where being yourself was too much. So you shrank, you silenced yourself, you hid parts of your soul just to fit in. But now you're done. You're done shrinking for people who couldn't even reach your level. You're done making yourself small so others don't feel insecure. You're done being hurt and calling it love. And now you walk differently, not with arrogance, but with alignment. Because peace is not a place you find, it's a choice you protect. And that peace, it's priceless. It's waking up without anxiety. It's laughing without guilt. It's resting without fear of being judged. It's being alone and not feeling lonely. That kind of peace is what you've been fighting for. And if you have to lose people to gain it, then let them go. If you have to distance yourself to preserve it, then create space. If you have to be misunderstood to maintain it, so be it. Because once you taste peace, after years of chaos, you stop tolerating anything that threatens it. You stop answering calls that come with drama. You stop replying to messages that drain your spirit. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to be the hero in stories where you're only cast as the villain. That version of you, the peacemaker who keeps getting hurt, is gone. This new version walks away early, leaves conversations that feel heavy, doesn't show up where they're not respected. You owe it to yourself to protect your spirit. You owe it to the younger you who cried and didn't know why. You owe it to the future you who deserves rest. People will question you when you change. They'll say you're acting strange, that you've got an attitude now. But what they don't realize is that it's not attitude, it's awareness. You finally realize your peace is not a group project. It's not for discussion. It's not up for approval. You don't need validation to live in your truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing your mental health. Let them misunderstand. Let them call you distant. Let them gossip. Because if they truly valued you, they'd respect your boundaries. They'd honor your peace. They wouldn't force you to choose between them and your well-being. But when people see they can no longer manipulate you, they'll label your peace as a problem. Let them. It just means you're healing. It just means you're growing. You don't have to fight them, argue with them, or prove anything. Your energy speaks louder than words. When your peace becomes your priority, everything else gets clearer. You see people's intentions, you recognize patterns, you feel your strength. You no longer walk in confusion, you walk in clarity. There was a time when your silence was mistaken for weakness. They thought because you didn't speak up, you were okay. Because you kept smiling, you weren't hurting, but you were. You just hid it well. You kept it together because you had no other choice. Because if you broke down, everything else around you would fall apart too. But now your silence is strength. Now your distance is protection. Now your no is final. You don't need to explain the storms you've weathered. You don't need to share every wound to be taken seriously. You just need to live like your peace is sacred, and it is. You've learned how to keep your heart soft, but your boundaries solid. You've learned how to walk away with love, but with clarity. You've learned that people don't have to hurt you twice for you to get the message the first time. Saying no is not rude. Protecting your peace is not mean. You don't owe anyone 24/7 access to your soul. You've been there, giving, sacrificing, holding space for everyone but yourself. What did it leave you with? Exhaustion, confusion, resentment. Not anymore. You're reclaiming your time, your space, your energy. You're choosing environments that feel like growth, not war zones. People who pour into you, not bleed you dry. You're learning to sit with yourself and actually enjoy your own company, to be alone and still feel full. Because peace isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of self. And once you discover it, you'll never again tolerate what you used to. You're not better than anyone, you're just finally better to yourself. And that's where the shift happens. That's where the transformation begins. There's nothing wrong with having a soft heart. There's nothing wrong with loving deeply, but now you love with wisdom, you give with awareness, you help with discernment, because while your heart is still pure, your mind is now sharp. You don't offer your peace to people who abuse it. You don't sit at tables where your voice has to compete to be heard. You don't stay in rooms that make your soul feel small. You've been burned enough to know what fire feels like. You've cried enough to know the cost of ignoring red flags. And now you listen to that voice inside, that gut feeling, that intuition that whispers, protect your peace. You've learned the hard way that peace doesn't come from people, it comes from within. And once it's built inside you, nobody can take it away unless you hand it to them. So you no longer hand it over, not to family, not to friends, not to lovers. If it costs you your peace, it's too expensive, period. Every step you take now is intentional. Every move is protective. You walk different now, not because you're bitter, but because you're wise. You speak less, observe more. You react less, reflect more. You invest in people who match your energy. You give your time where it's respected. You allow love that feels safe. The chaos they once brought into your life, that's no longer your environment. That's not your atmosphere anymore. You are building a life that feels like peace, not pain. A life where your smile is real, not a mask. A life where your quiet moments are peaceful, not anxious. That's the life you deserve. That's the life you're creating. No more bending, no more breaking, no more burning out for people who wouldn't light a match to love you. You're standing strong now, centered, grounded.
Hey, how's it going? Chris Pratt here. Look, I know this is totally out of the blue, but would you stop and pray with me? Number one, put God first. Put God first in everything you do. Everything that you think you see in me, everything that I've accomplished, everything that you think I have, and I have a few things, everything that I have is by the grace of God. You understand? It's a gift. He is the one. Just this past grade point average. I hope none of you can relate. Out of 1.7 grade point average. I was sitting in my mother's beauty shop. They still call it beauty shop? What they call it? Yeah, I was sitting in the beauty parlor. I was sitting in my mother's beauty parlor. And I'm looking in the mirror, and I see behind me this woman under the dryer. And every time she looked up, every time I looked up, she was looking at me. She was looking me in the eye. And I didn't know who she was. And I said, she said, somebody give me a pen. Give me a pencil. I have a prophecy. March 27, 1975. She said, boy, you're going to travel and speak to millions of people. Now, mind you, I was far out of college. I'm thinking about joining the army. I didn't know what I was going to do. She's telling me I'm going to travel the world and speak to millions of people. Well, I have traveled the world. And I have spoken to millions of people. But that's not the most important thing, the success that I had. The most important thing is that what she taught me and what she told me that day has stayed with me since. I've been protected. I've been directed. I've been corrected. I've kept God in my life and has kept me humble. I didn't always stick with him, but he always stuck with me. So stick with him in everything you do. If you think you want to do what you think I've done, then do what I've done. And stick with God. Number 2, fail. You ever notice that the loudest person in the room is usually the weakest? Always talking, always proving something, always chasing validation. But the strongest person, the one who moves in silence, that's the one who truly wins. Let me tell you something. Life has a way of giving you exactly what you need at exactly the right time. But only if you learn to be still. Only if you learn to be quiet. Only if you learn to trust the process. Because when you stop forcing, when you stop explaining yourself to people who never cared to understand you, that's when life starts working in your favor. The right things will come, the right people will stay, the wrong ones will remove themselves. All you have to do is stay silent and let it happen. Silence is power, not just the absence of words, but the presence of awareness. The moment you stop talking, the moment you resist the urge to explain yourself, defend yourself, or prove your worth to those who don't deserve your energy, that's when you take back control. You begin to listen, not just to words, but to what isn't being said, to the energy in the room, to the hidden motives behind people's actions, to the truth that's buried beneath all the noise. Most people can't handle silence. They talk because they fear it. They talk because they feel invisible. They talk because they think being louder makes them stronger. But true strength isn't about how much you say. It's about what you do in the moments of restraint. It's about patience. It's about having the discipline to observe and understand before reacting. Think about the people you admire most, the leaders, the visionaries, the ones who command respect effortlessly. They don't waste words. They don't fill space with meaningless chatter. They don't try to impress you with empty promises or exaggerated stories. When they speak, people listen. And why? Because their words carry weight. And what gives their words weight? Experience, wisdom, intention. That's the power of silence. When you stop talking, you start listening. Not just to others, but to yourself. You begin to recognize the thoughts that truly matter. You start noticing the warnings you once ignored. You see more clearly who is truly for you and who is just playing a role in your life. Because when you're always speaking, you can't observe, you can't analyze, you can't read between the lines. And you miss the moments when people reveal exactly who they are. People will always show you who they are if you let them. But most never notice because they're too busy trying to prove something. When you stay silent, you create space for people to reveal their true nature. You don't have to ask if they're loyal. Just watch. You don't have to beg for respect. Just be still and see how they treat you when you're no longer performing for their approval. Winning in life isn't about how much you say. It's about how much you understand.
When you listen more than you speak, you learn. You pick up on opportunities before they become obvious. You see people's true intentions before they have the chance to deceive you. You sense situations shifting before they catch you off guard. Silence brings clarity, and clarity is what separates the strong from the weak. Think of a chess game. The best players don't make reckless moves. They don't announce their strategy. They sit in silence, reading the board, studying their opponent, waiting for the right moment to act. That's how life works. The ones who talk too much, they expose their plans before they even make a move. They reveal their weaknesses without even realizing it. But the one who stays quiet, the one who observes, that's the one who always stays ahead. People respect silence more than words, because anyone can talk, anyone can make promises, anyone can claim to be strong, wise, or in control. But real power doesn't need to announce itself. Real power is felt. It's in presence, in action, in the ability to sit in silence and still command attention. When you stop talking, you start noticing. You pick up on the little shifts in people when they're lying. You hear the subtle changes in their tone when they're being insincere. You recognize hesitation, contradictions, and the energy behind their words. And that level of awareness, that depth of understanding, is something most people never reach, because they're too busy filling the silence instead of listening to what it reveals. There's a reason why the quietest people in the room are often the most powerful. They're not silent because they have nothing to say. They're silent because they're watching, because they're analyzing, because they understand that words can be a distraction, but silence is a weapon. When you start listening more than you speak, you realize just how much unnecessary noise exists in the world. How many arguments aren't worth your energy? How many explanations are wasted on people who have already decided what they want to believe? How many apologies you never needed to give because you weren't wrong in the first place? Silence is power. It stops you from reacting impulsively. It keeps you from saying things you'll later regret. It helps you avoid battles that aren't worth your energy. It allows you to move with purpose, with precision, and with a clear mind. When you embrace silence, you begin to filter out those who crave your attention, but lack your best interests at heart. You stop engaging in conversations that drain you. You no longer feel the urge to respond to every insult, every doubt, or every challenge thrown your way. Because true strength doesn't argue. It simply exists, unshaken, undeniable. Some of life's greatest victories come not from speaking, but from knowing when to stay quiet, from letting your actions, your discipline, and your results speak for you, from keeping your emotions guarded, from refusing to react when others expect you to. Because the moment someone learns how to provoke you, they gain control over you. But when you remain silent, when you refuse to let them dictate your response, that's when you become unstoppable. It's not easy to be silent in a world that equates being loud with being important. But real significance, real power, has nothing to do with how much noise you make. It's in the weight of your presence. It's in the impact of your actions. It's in the discipline of knowing when to hold back. When you stop talking, you start listening. And when you start listening, you start winning. Because wisdom lives in the quiet. Strength is built in stillness. And those who master silence master life. Desperation repels what you desire. The more you chase something, the more it resists you. This applies not only to people, but to everything. Success, relationships, respect, opportunities. The moment you start running after them, you give off an energy of lack, of neediness, and nothing valuable responds well to desperation. Think about it.
Been in a car accident? Here's exactly how to get every dollar you're owed. If you've been in a car accident in the last year, even as a passenger, you could be sitting on thousands, maybe even over $100,000 without even realizing it. But most people never check what their case is really worth, and insurance companies are banking on that. The reality is, insurance companies are not on your side. Their job is to protect their bottom line, which means paying you as little as possible. They use complex legal language, endless paperwork, and deliberate delays to make you give up before you ever see a dime. But what if I told you there's a simple, risk-free way to find out exactly how much money you could be owed? No going to court, no fighting with insurance adjusters, and no paying upfront legal fees. You could get every dollar you deserve just by following 3 simple steps. It only takes 30 seconds to find out if your case qualifies. No legal jargon, no confusing forms, just 5 multiple-choice questions. That's all it takes to determine if you could be entitled to a life-changing cash payout. If your case qualifies, a compensation specialist will reach out to you and guide you through the process. You don't need to become a legal expert or handle difficult negotiations. They do all the work for you. You simply tell them about your accident, and they take it from there. No upfront costs, no obligations, and you don't pay a dime unless you win. Once everything is handled, your check could arrive in as little as 30 days. That's right. You could have a 5 or 6 figure payout in your hands without setting foot in the courtroom. Now let me tell you about Brooke. Brooke was in a car accident about 6 months ago. She didn't think she had a strong case, and she almost didn't even check. She figured the insurance company had already given her what she was owed. But after answering those same 5 simple questions, she discovered she was entitled to over $100,000. $100,000 that she would have walked away from if she hadn't checked. So let me ask you, what would an extra $10,000, $50,000, even $100,000 do for you right now? Could it help you cover rent, pay off lingering medical bills, or take the stress off your shoulders so you can focus on recovery? That money could be rightfully yours, but waiting too long could cost you everything. Because here's the catch. These cases don't stay open forever. If you wait too long, you could lose your chance to claim what's yours. Insurance companies hope you never take action. They know that the longer you wait, the more likely you are to just move on and forget about it. That's why it's so important to check now before it's too late. So don't make the same mistake most people do. Don't let insurance companies win. Click the link, answer 5 quick questions, and see what your case is really worth. It's free to check, takes less than a minute, and you don't pay a cent unless you win. But do it now, because if you wait too long, you might be walking away from life-changing money.
Have you ever tried catching a butterfly with your hands? The more you reach for it, the further it flies. But the moment you stand still, the moment you stop grasping, it lands gently on your shoulder. Life works the same way. The harder you chase, the faster things slip away. But when you stop, when you focus on yourself, when you embody patience and confidence, everything starts gravitating toward you. People are naturally drawn to what feels rare, what feels valuable. But when you chase someone, when you make yourself too available, you diminish that value. Your actions send the message that you're willing to overextend yourself just to keep them in your life. And when someone senses that they're more important to you than you are to yourself, they begin to take you for granted. They pull away. They push boundaries because you've shown them they don't have to work to keep you. But when you stop chasing, when you stop initiating every conversation, making every call, and trying to prove your worth, that's when things shift. That's when people start noticing your absence. That's when they begin to wonder why you're no longer available, why you've stopped trying. And suddenly they start chasing you. Not because you manipulated them, but because you finally understood your value enough to stop running after what was never running towards you. The same principle applies to success. Those who thrive in life aren't the ones begging for opportunities. They aren't the ones forcing things before their time. They are the ones who prepare, who build, who remain patient. They trust the process. They work in silence. And because of that, the right opportunities naturally find them. Look at the people who are desperate to be liked, always trying to prove themselves. They're exhausting to be around. They try too hard. They overcompensate. And in doing so, they lose respect. But those who carry themselves with quiet confidence, who aren't desperate for validation, command attention effortlessly. They don't need to be liked. They simply exist as they are. And that energy alone attracts everything to them. Chasing is rooted in fear. The fear of losing, the fear of missing out, the fear of not being enough. But the moment you let go of that fear, when you finally realize you don't need to chase anything to be worthy, everything shifts. You carry yourself differently. You speak differently. You stop accepting breadcrumbs because you know you deserve the whole feast. You stop begging for love because you understand that real love never requires begging. When you stop chasing, you start attracting, because you begin operating from a place of abundance instead of lack. You realize that what is meant for you will never require you to lose yourself to keep it. The right people will see your value without you having to prove it. The right opportunities will come when you're ready, not when you're desperate. It's not about playing mind games. It's not about ignoring people just to make them want you more. It's about truly understanding that chasing isn't necessary. When you're secure in yourself, you don't have to force what's meant for you. You don't have to beg for time, love, or effort. If someone values you, they will show up. And if they don't, chasing them wouldn't have changed anything. Have you ever noticed that when you stop caring so much, things start to work out? The job you gave up on suddenly calls you back. The person who moved on suddenly reaches out. The opportunity you thought was gone suddenly comes back around. That's not luck, it's alignment. When you stop chasing, you regain control. The irony of life is that the more you try to control things, the more chaotic they become. But when you step back, let go, and focus on yourself, everything starts to align. The right people, the right timing, the right opportunities, they come effortlessly. Real power isn't in chasing. It's in realizing you never had to in the first place. There is strength in silence, power in keeping your dreams, plans, and next moves to yourself. Not everyone deserves to know what you're working on or where you're headed. Some people only want to hear your plans so they can plant doubt in your mind. Others want to see your next step so they can block it. And some just want to watch, not to support, but to take advantage. When you overshare, you invite unnecessary energy into your life. Energy that drains, discourages, and even sabotages you. Some people will smile to your face, not in agreement, but the moment you walk away, they're hoping you fail. Not everyone wants to see you win. Your growth reminds them of everything they haven't done, so they plant seeds of doubt. They question your abilities. They act like they don't understand. But in reality, they just don't want you to succeed. The more you talk, the more access you give people to your vision. But not everyone deserves that access. Some people should only see the final product, not the process. Some should only hear about the results, not the hard work behind them. Because when you expose your plans too soon, you give others the chance to interfere, to discourage you, to make you second guess yourself. Think about how many dreams have died because someone spoke too soon. How many people were excited about an idea, shared it with the wrong person, and suddenly felt doubt creep in. Not everyone is rooting for you. Some will pretend to support you, but deep down they don't want you to surpass them. Silence protects your dreams. It keeps your energy focused. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop announcing your plans, you give yourself the freedom to move without distractions, without outside opinions, without pressure. You just put in the work and let the results do the talking. The most successful people don't announce their every move. They work in silence, grinding when no one is watching. And by the time people realize what they've done, it's too late to stop them. That's how you have to move, quietly, with discipline, without seeking approval or validation. A lion doesn't have to roar every minute to prove it's a lion. It moves with confidence, power, and certainty. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You don't have to explain your every move. Stay focused, stay consistent, and let your results speak for themselves. Too many people waste their energy explaining their plans to the wrong people. They spend time trying to convince others they're serious about their goals. But the truth is, no one needs to believe in your dream except you. No one needs to understand your vision except you. Because when you truly believe in yourself, you don't need permission. You don't need validation. You just need action. The greatest ideas, businesses, and achievements all started in silence. Before they changed the world, they were built in the dark, away from the noise, away from unnecessary opinions. And that's exactly where you need to be. The people who achieve the most don't waste time explaining their plans. They spend time building them. When you work in silence, you protect your energy. You don't waste time defending your decisions. You don't let outside voices interfere with your momentum. You stay in control. You move without fear of judgment or the weight of other people's doubts. And when you finally reveal what you've been working on, it speaks for itself. Some people ask about your plans just to compare them to their own. They want to see if you're ahead of them, if you're doing better. And the moment they realize you are, they either try to discourage you or copy you. But when you stay quiet and keep your moves private, they have nothing to compare, nothing to compete with, and nothing to interfere with. There's a reason why the most powerful moves in history were made in silence. A reason why the greatest successes are revealed only when they are already unstoppable. Because when you work in the background, no one sees you coming. And that is your greatest advantage. Let them wonder. Let them assume. Let them think you're doing nothing. Meanwhile, you are growing, you are building, you are becoming something greater. And when the time is right, when your work is ready to be seen, there will be nothing they can do to stop it. Because by then, it won't be about words. It will be about results. And results speak for themselves. Patience is one of the greatest strengths a person can have, yet too many people mistake it for weakness. In a world obsessed with instant results, fast success, and overnight transformations, patience has become undervalued. People believe waiting is a waste of time, that slowing down means falling behind, that if something doesn't happen immediately, it won't happen at all. But that's not how life works. The strongest, most successful, most fulfilled people understand that great things take time. They don't rush, they don't force, they trust the process. When you lack patience, you make desperate decisions. You settle for less than you deserve. You take shortcuts that cost you more in the long run. Impatience leads to mistakes, jumping into the wrong relationships, taking jobs that don't align with your purpose, quitting when things get tough just because you don't see immediate results. But when you trust the process, when you accept that great things take time, you make better choices. You move differently. You wait for what truly aligns with you instead of grabbing whatever is available out of fear that nothing better will come. Look at the strongest structures in the world, the tallest buildings, the most solid foundations. They take years to build. You can't rush the foundation and expect the building to last. The same is true for anything meaningful in life. A strong relationship isn't built overnight. A successful business doesn't happen in a week. A resilient mindset isn't developed in a day. These patience, endurance, and trust, even when you don't see immediate results.